We've had a request from one of Medway's most treasured festivals, the Dickens Festival, to create a new tutorial celebrating Dickens 150. So today we're going to look at how to write a Dickens masterpiece.
Dizzy O'Dare tutorials.
First up, to write our Dickens masterpiece, we need to get into character. And there are a few ways you can do this. You could hold a séance in the hope that Dickens will empty your body and speak through you. You could go back in time and you could spy on him. Cannibals believed you could eat a man's brain and take on their knowledge. You could read every bit of literature he ever wrote. But my personal favourite, put on a costume. Now let's get serious. Looking through some of Dickens' books, there's some wacky names in here. We've got Abel Magwitch and Betsy Trotwood. We've got Seth Peckensniff. Crazy. We've got Uriah Heep. Good names, strong names. So you need to come up with some crazy names of your own, like Stella Swiggins, landlady with a heart of gold. Arduous Task. We could have Squinter Trenchfoot. Yeah? Which brings me on to character descriptions. Because Dickens' character descriptions, they're like 2 pages long. He just keeps on going. He'll talk about everything from wealth to height to a stoop, a catchphrase, marital status, tics, you name it, he'll mention it. So when you do your character descriptions, just keep on going. Don't stop. Don't think, oh, we've got that down, blonde, 6'4", blue eyes. It's not enough. And you've got to use repetition. Like, man, he was a man. He was a mighty good man. He was a man who knew men. He was a man from a manor, a big manor. He was a man that men wanted to be. And man, could he be a man? Man, he was tall, with a head the size of a tennis ball. He was a man who could tell a man from another man just by looking at the plan of his hands. Man, oh man, what a man. Now, I've read a couple of synopses of Dickens' books, and I've noticed, I would say there's a lot of cliches in there. So don't be afraid to use a cliche when you're writing your Dickens masterpiece. Like an orphan boy with a heart of gold, or a robber with a dog. Put them all in there. And if you can pair a perfect child with an horrible adult, oh, that's gold. That is gold. He also liked convenient, incredible twists. So if you've got some boy who's desperate for a bit of money, and this stranger comes along who just happens to be his rich grandparent, oh, classic Dickens. Shove that in, that'll be amazing. He also liked cliffhangers. I've done a bit of Google digging, and many people believe Dickens was paid by the word, which it's not true. It's not true. He was paid by the chapter. So what he did, he stretched his chapters out by using as many words as possible. So when you write your Dickens masterpiece, make sure you use so many words. You've got to digress. You've got to use poetic similes, as much description as you can. Just keep going, even to the point where you lose the original point, and then you can boomerang back around and come back to the original point. So, what am I talking about now? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Words. Think on. One of the last things I need to say is when you're writing your Dickens masterpiece, make sure you throw in a political angle. That's so in years to come, people can dissect your work and talk about how smart you are, how intellectual you are. For Dickens, primarily, he would critique the rich to throw light on the difficulties of the poor. So make sure you do that. But he also then threw in a few jokes just to keep people interested. Talk about politics, then add a joke. Here's an example of a joke you could use. Dickens walks into a bar and asks for a martini, and the barman says, olive or twist. So now I'd like to put everything into practice and give you a reading from my own Dickens masterpiece. Difficult Situations by Dizzy O'Dare. It was a dark day, so dark it looked like night. Like a dark night where people walked into things. The clock clicked and clanged, banged and binged. Cogs creaked and turned, and slowly, slower than that snail from the great snail race of '82 who lost because of athlete's foot, slowly the clock struck 2, which was not the correct time, as the clock was clearly broken. But Stella Swiggins paid it no heed. Stella Swiggins was a woman with eyes and a nose, a woman with a foghorn singing voice and a penchant for power ballads. She had a lazy eye, more earrings than any ear should be able to hold, and breath so bad it could clear the annual general meeting of sewage workers. Stella was big and brash, and the perfect landlady for the surprisingly popular drinking establishment, the Empty Barrel. Establishment made the public swill hole sound more salubrious than it was. The ceiling was made of cardboard attached via blue rope between 2 buildings at the back alley between Butterworth's Sweet Emporium and Swiggins' Podiatrist and Pedicures. Not daft. Stella would combine the byproducts of both these shops to create her unique bar snacks. But on this night, which wasn't actually a night, it was 5:28 in the PM to be precise. The pollution in this impoverished East End was so bad sunlight had become a myth, something grandparents remembered to their innocent, wide-eyed grandchildren after returning home from the Empty Barrel, having tried a few squibs of Stella's experimental new ale and a handful of those sweet yet spiky bar snacks. At 5:28 precisely, in walked the most handsome man Stella had ever laid eyes on. Well, one was lazy. His name was Task. Arduous Task. Arduous walked up to the bar and asked for a martini. I hope you've all learned something today. I know I have. Oh, that's delicious. Happy Dickens 150.